Hey, everybody, and welcome to Before College TV. We have a live college conversation with Clemson University students. I had to start this broadcast and I was interrupting them. They were talking about not even being able to say goodbye because of this whole pandemic thing. Who was saying like you didn't get to say goodbye?
I actually never got to speak to Duncan before we left because he left early that morning, and then I just didn't know he had left, and we thought we were just going to be back in a week.
Really? So Duncan, just tell me real quickly. I know that you and Ashley were talking about that. So you left and you didn't even pack. Like, tell me what was going on.
Yeah, so obviously the week before spring, or that week kind of where everything was getting shut down was like the week before spring break. So I had spring break plans to fly out to San Francisco to visit a friend of mine. And so that Friday morning, right before spring break, I had one class for the day, but it was canceled. And so I was going to go drop my roommate off because he doesn't have a car and he was catching a flight from Atlanta. So I was going to go drive down there and drop him off. And then on the way, I get a call from my friend in San Francisco who I was supposed to stay with. And he was just saying like everything was shut down. So it was probably smarter just not to come. And so at that point it was too late because I'd already, started towards Atlanta and, coming back to Clemson wasn't really on the way home. And so, I've only packed basically for a week and a few days. And so it's been a little bit difficult with clothes, basically
So
living
you're
out of a
wearing
suitcase.
lot of the same, you're wearing a lot of the same clothes.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it's probably 5 or 6 t-shirts, 3 or 4 pairs of shorts, just kind of in rotation, and then doing laundry at the end of the week.
That's crazy, man. Are you going to get to go back to campus to get your stuff? Because, and just to bring everyone up to speed, today is April 18th. About 3 weeks ago, schools, classes weren't canceled, but you guys were told you need to leave Clemson, right? You got to go.
Mm-hmm.
And how much time did you have to pack your stuff and get out?
I was already gone when I got that email.
No, we weren't coming back.
Yeah.
So you didn't even know you weren't coming back. So
no.
When we left for spring break, we knew that we were going to have one additional week of online classes at that point. We hadn't heard anything else.
Wow. So you guys left and had no idea that you were even going to, be done for the rest of the year. This is your freshman year. And for everybody who's tuning in, we have 4 panelists. They're from Clemson University. These are all first-year students. We have Kelsie, and you can just wave when I say your name. And we have Gracie, and we have Ashley, and we have Duncan. And Duncan, move your head a little bit so we can see your name. Right. Like, isn't that awesome? Like, that's your childhood bedroom, right?
Yes.
Like, right. Like, you've always been looking at that Duncan on your wall, and you're now back at school. So, Duncan, if the world hadn't been turned upside down, okay, let's say you're back at school. It's a Friday, because today is Friday. At least that's the day I think it is. It's 5:19 Clemson time. Tell me, where would you be and what would you be doing if the world hadn't changed so rapidly?
Right now, honestly, I'd probably be out at the lounge at the end of our hall playing cards with the other 3 panelists sitting here at the moment. Tonight, I don't know what I probably would have been doing. We might have had a night in, or, I might have gone out downtown with some friends. But yeah, I definitely would be socializing and whatnot right now.
You'd be hanging out with the rest of the panelists. You'd be playing cards. We could even do that virtually. So it'd be like the same thing. It'd be just as much fun, but you'd be doing that. And then where do you live? Where's this lounge? What building is it in?
So we all live in Core Campus in Clemson, which is one of their newer dorm buildings, which houses the Honors College. And so the way that kind of a lot of the floors are set up is they're L-shaped. And then kind of at that L, there's a huge lounge that opens up with a huge window facing the football stadium.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, wow. Like, this is just what it's like?
Just like that.
And it's here. Right.
Yes.
That looks just like it. Wow. That's exciting to be in a newer place. And Duncan, do you live with one person, two people, three people, no people?
So I was in a suite style dorm, and so I had one roommate, and then we had two suite mates. And so I had one person like in my physical bedroom, but then I shared a bathroom with three other people.
So like when you would go to sleep, you could look and be like, you would see another human being sleeping.
Yes.
Listen to that human being sleeping.
Yes.
Yeah. Right. Was that weird for you?
It was a huge adjustment just because, so I'm the only boy of my siblings, and so I've always had my own room. And so actually having to physically share the space with someone else was definitely an adjustment.
Okay, for those juniors and seniors who are watching, given it's your first time and you're in that roommate situation, can you give somebody a tip on what they should do and what they shouldn't do?
I think probably the best advice I could give is just make sure you have kind of a clear set of boundaries going into it. Like have that discussion kind of the first week, just so you can kind of be on the same page with the person you're living with, just because I know for me it was a random roommate assignment. So it was really kind of awkward having to have that conversation, but it was really helpful in establishing like a peaceful rest of the year. Because I mean, we understood that we were going to have to cohabitate the space.
Okay.
And so just
Let's
making
do
sure we were
this.
on the same page.
So let's imagine I'm your roommate, okay? I want to hear this awkward conversation. Pretend I'm the roommate and let's have this conversation. Are you cool doing that? We'll do a quick version of this. You want to play?
Fun.
Yeah, let's do
Yeah,
this.
and I know, Ashley, I saw you kind of smiling, and Gracie, when it comes to Duncan's roommate situation, because clearly you were on the in, right? You were in the know, right?
Yes.
Well, me and Ashley actually were roommates.
Yes, we were.
And I lived across the hall from all of
So
them.
everybody had to have this conversation. Like it was set up through Clemson, like our RAs, where we had to sit down and like go through all the processes about everything.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. So Ashley and Kelsie, did you know each other before you started cohabitating?
Yes, we've known each other since like elementary school.
Oh, you're friends.
We've been like really, really good friends.
Oh, I
And when
advise.
we both were going to Clemson, we just roommates.
And we lived next door to Duncan's like room, and then we lived across from Gracie.
Oh my
Yes.
gosh. Okay. Did you know Gracie in high school?
No.
No. So she's new to this. And then Duncan, you didn't know Duncan.
Mm-mm.
No. I always advise against friends living together. I think it's a terrible idea because you either end up friends or you end up hating each other. Do you two hate each other?
No, not yet.
I've mediated a few arguments.
We have argued.
Few conversations that were heated, but
Yes.
You got
mostly love each other at the end of the day.
Yes.
So that's wonderful that you could deal with the heated conversation, because that's a hard thing. I mean, really, the relationship's different when you live with a friend, correct?
Yes.
I think both of us being like the older sibling, like we both knew that like at the end of the day, like even if we were not seeing eye to eye on something, that it was more important to like be friends than to argue over something stupid.
Yes.
Yeah, that's
Definitely.
great. A lot of times a significant other will get in the way. Like I find that busts up a lot of good friends. Like someone likes the person and the other person doesn't or does, or somebody spends too much time over. I don't know, did that come up at all? Were there any,
Not really.
okay.
Mm-mm.
Yeah, it's a big thing. I know that we were about to, Duncan, we were about to have that conversation. Let's have a real quick version of the conversation for anybody who's going to live with someone, so that you can set expectations. So let's do this, man. Okay. Hey, Duncan, it's great to meet you. I'm Harlan.
Great to meet you too. I'm Duncan.
Hey, Duncan, I heard that there's a conversation you need to have with me. I'm ready, dude. What do you need to tell me? Is this how it goes?
Pretty much, yeah. And then we just kind of talk about like, bedtimes and like when, we wake up in the morning and stuff like that, kind of ironing that
What's
stuff
my
like
bedtime?
that.
You're going to give me a bedtime?
Well, I just,
I'm just,
it's important to know. It's definitely a conversation that has to be had though, because it's
No,
very important.
You're being
Mhm.
so serious, and I'm joking, asking for a bedtime. And I don't
Yes,
mean
you're getting
to.
a bedtime. Sorry.
No, but it's
2
important to talk
a.m.
about when you go to bed. I totally agree with you. I don't want to. Uh, I don't want to minimize the importance. I think the most important thing with roommates is it's really when does someone go to sleep and when does someone get up.
Hmm.
Like that's it, because it's really, it could be annoying. So you had this conversation. Was there anything else that you had to talk about? And then we'll keep things moving. But were there any weird things or odd things about you that you were uncomfortable sharing with your roommates?
I don't think so. I mean, I'm definitely kind of the kind of person who will keep to themselves. So I think that made it a lot easier for me, just kind of like, as long as I kind of have my own space and like the degree of privacy, I'm kind of okay with whatever you do, just kind of as long as I'm in the loop with anything going on. So definitely, I think, a piece of advice would be to definitely be very adaptable when entering a kind of a new roommate situation. It just can make things a lot smoother.
Yeah,
Um,
that's great advice. And you got through it. Your roommate's obviously not your best friend right now, I'm guessing.
we're good friends and we still talk pretty frequently
Okay.
since we've been home. But
Okay.
yeah, it was, you know, yeah.
You're being very kind. You got through it and you made great friends. Gracie, so tell me, it's now Friday. You're getting ready to do whatever you do. What would you be doing had you not been told to leave Clemson?
I mean, like Duncan said, I'd probably be in the lounge, like waiting for one of these three to come find me. A lot of Friday nights we would like play cards or board games and watch everyone like trickle out to their parties and then come back like 4 hours later a little drunk. It gets entertaining for sure. I mean, sometimes my math professor likes to make things do at midnight, so a lot of the time I'm working on those. But it's more fun when you can actually work on them with like people around you and like have
Yeah.
friends there to talk to.
That's so nice. So you came to Clemson knowing none of these people. Are you somebody who's very good at making friends, or can you be a little shy and reserved? Help people to understand who you are. Kind of use your. I mean, we don't want to put you in a box, but like, kind of describe the type of person you were and how you operate when it comes to friends.
Yeah, I'm definitely introverted, so I wasn't super nervous about making friends. Like, I don't think that was something that I was scared about necessarily, but I think it definitely took me a little bit longer to make friends than it might have taken people who were very extroverted and like very good at just immediately clicking with people. So I actually live in a single suite. So the other three live in like they have a roommate, but I only have one suite mate, so I have my own room. And that helped me a lot with being able to concentrate on my work and get sleep and everything. But it definitely did make it harder at the beginning of the year for me to connect with people in the hall because I didn't have like a roommate who was kind of like my buddy that I could go to stuff with. And so I started going to church with Ashley and Kelsie, and a couple of other people from our hall actually, and then like was able to start hanging out with them. And so that was what really helped me. So I would
Yeah.
say like if you're someone who's more introverted or I guess is like more nervous about making friends, even going to extracurriculars and like getting involved on campus will help you make friends, and they might even live across the hall from you. So
Yeah, that's super cool. So how did you know they were going to church?
so I had found this student ministry, Clemson Wesley, online just because I was doing some research before I got to Clemson, and I went to the first couple events with one of my friends from home. And it just so happened that for some reason, a lot of people from our hall and our dorm just ended up coming, which my friend from home didn't live on our hall, but I ended up connecting with just a lot of people who lived near me, and that was really helpful because I wouldn't have to like go across campus to see someone I knew. And
Right.
so that was just kind of a lucky coincidence that worked out really well.
So then you bumped into Kelsie and Ashley, and when you bumped into them, was Duncan there too?
So Duncan doesn't go to our same church, but he would hang out with them all the time in the lounge, like especially Ashley and Duncan would always be out there playing cards. So as I started hanging out with like Ashley and Kelsie more, I started hanging out with Duncan more too. And
Nice.
we all became
So
friends.
that's awesome. So when you see Ashley and Kelsie, were they nice? Who engaged who? How did you start this conversation, or who started it?
Oh gosh, I don't know. I mean, I think the great thing that we all noticed about Clemson Wesley when we started going is that it was really easy to talk to people. Like they give everyone a name tag every single week, so it's not very intimidating to like go up and talk to people you don't know. And I think all of the freshmen were kind of like feeling each other out. And once we realized we all lived in the same place, like we'd start writing together or trying to like come back together so we wouldn't have to walk from the parking lot alone. And so, through those kind of things, we connected.
Nice. That's really interesting because how people find friends and how they find connections. It's challenging, and at a university the size of Clemson, really finding your place is important. And it's interesting that Wellesley, right? The Wesley, Wesley, yeah.
Mhm.
So the Wesley, Clemson Wesley really became your home. So Kelsie, let me ask you, when you were thinking of creating your life at Clemson, did you really think about the places where you're going to meet people, the places where that are going to be really easy for you to find connection? Did you and Ashley have that conversation, or did you have that thought?
We kind of talked about Wesley just a little bit because we had heard about it previously before coming to Clemson at one of our retreats we went to through our home church. We both knew that we wanted to get involved in Wesley just because it was like the Clemson Methodist Foundation as well. So we felt really home with that. Other than that, I was kind of open to just about anything. I knew that I wanted to get involved in extracurriculars, but I wasn't quite sure like where I fit in when I got there. It wasn't
Right.
until they have a tiger prowl, and it's kind of like this day where they open up the football field and they line the outer parts of it, like where they're normally like concession stands, and they have like every extracurricular, every club, anything you could join at Clemson was there.
Mhm.
And so it really opened our mind to see like what we could join.
Yeah, I think that's great. And we're going to do a speed round at the end where we're going to give high school students a list of organizations and activities that are really accessible, that students who don't know a lot of people can participate in and do it safely without feeling like they're going to be judged or rejected in some way. So I want to know why you all chose Clemson. I'm really interested in knowing this. And I also want to understand if it was your first choice. I know that some of you probably applied to schools and got rejected. Did anybody get rejected by a show of hands? Duncan got a lot of good rejections. Great. And Gracie, you got rejected. This is awesome. Ashley and Kelsie, you did not have enough rejection. There will be someone for you in the future. You will get rejected, okay? And it's a good thing, not a bad thing at all. So Duncan, tell me, where was your first choice? Where did you really want to go? And how did you choose Clemson?
So I guess I would say, so I applied to 10 schools, ranging from some Ivy League schools to some bigger state university schools.
Give me the names of like some of the Ivy, if you're cool with that, because it's fun to hear.
Yeah. So I applied to Columbia. I guess Columbia was the only Ivy I applied to, but I applied to Duke, Vanderbilt, Chapel Hill, Northwestern, Michigan, Clemson, Alabama, Furman, and Wofford,
Nice.
which are both in upstate South Carolina. And so I guess kind of my dream school has always been Duke, because my dad went to law school at Duke, and so that's always been kind of my number one, like just for as long as I can remember. But unfortunately I didn't get in, and so that rejection was really hard. But then on top of that, I didn't get into Columbia, Northwestern, Vanderbilt, or Chapel Hill, so that definitely narrowed down the process.
I want to hit the pause button because when that part of, you obviously are a high achieving student, You're smart. You're a smart guy, right? When you is that true, Ashley? Would you say he's a pretty smart guy? Yeah. How would you describe Ashley? How would you describe Duncan? Duncan, are you comfortable with her describing you so I can understand you better?
Sure, absolutely.
Okay. Give me a quick little summary of Duncan through your eyes.
Duncan is that quality friend who is there for you no matter what and who will succeed at anything he tries.
No, that's wonderful. That feels good, Duncan, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
clearly you're surrounded by people who respect you, which is really wonderful. When it came to not getting into those schools, especially Duke, tell me, like, how much did that hurt and how did you get through that?
Yeah, it was a super humbling experience just because I felt like I was really competitive applying to these schools. And so getting those rejection letters, or I guess rejection emails, was definitely just kind of it really humbled me a lot. And it definitely stung. But, I just kind of was able to pivot and was like, okay, here are 5 other schools who do want me to come. And so just kind of having that mindset of like, well, sure, I didn't get into these schools and they may not want me for whatever reason, but just kind of understanding that there were other schools who did want me and, valued me going there. That really, having that mindset definitely helped, but it definitely stung a little bit.
Yeah, it's a really painful piece, and I don't want to seem insensitive or evil that I'm like trying to peel back the layers and the pain,
Mm-hmm.
but I think it's something that so many people experience and don't know how to process. And
Mm-hmm.
seeing that you are at a place where I would say you seem happy. Are you happy at Clemson?
Oh, I love it. I'm very glad where I ended up.
Yeah. And are you in the honors program as well?
Yes.
Okay. So are
Yes.
you all part of the honors program?
I'm not.
Okay. And then Ashley, are you?
Yes.
You are. Okay. And Gracie, you are as well. Because I think the honors programs are really interesting places. And the fact that Kelsie, you aren't, but you're surrounded by people who are, and you have friends who are doing different things, I think also speaks to the experience you're having. So I just want to spend one more second with you, Duncan. So with your schools, you chose Clemson, but where were you kind of torn between, and why did you pick Clemson?
Yeah, so I kind of ended up narrowing it down to the final 3 of Clemson, Furman, and Wofford. And I toured all 3 of them several times. And then for me, it just kind of came down to, well, one, both of my parents attended Clemson undergrad. And so like I kind of grown up around the campus and just like with the school. And so it's really familiar and comfortable to me. But I just kind of decided that going to the bigger school was going to provide me with the most opportunities to kind of branch out. Because as much as I loved Furman and Wofford, they are very small and have a more limited kind of, like, they have limited majors and just like limited opportunities. And so I felt going to the bigger school, well, it was intimidating just because it was so large, was just going to provide me with the best opportunities to succeed.
Gotcha. Because that's a big difference. I mean, what is it, 19,000, 16,000? How many people go to Clemson roughly? Something like
It's
that?
about 20,000, yeah, somewhere in there.
Oh, yeah. Right. So there's a lot, and these other schools are much smaller. And it's interesting that that's where you were kind of torn between, because they're very different environments. Gracie, so tell me, where did you want to go? What was your first choice, and how did you end up at Clemson?
So my top 2 choices were Emory and Duke. And when it came down to it, I got in, but like they were way too expensive. Like the financial aid packages just weren't enough for it to be like worth it for me to go to one of those schools. Like I want to go to graduate school, and so I would rather like have a great undergrad experience, but also not have to spend $70,000 a year, so that I can save that money for later in my educational career if I need it for grad school. And so I was rejected from a few schools. Like I was rejected from Penn, Princeton, and U Chicago, and waitlisted at Vanderbilt. So like Duncan, that definitely stung at first. But I think, and like for anyone who's watching, like one thing that helped me was I realized that there's just a lot of qualified students. It wasn't that I was not qualified to get into those schools. It's just that like, you know, there's so many accomplished people, and their achievements don't really take away from mine, but they were, you know, they got spots in those schools, and that's amazing for them. And the fact that I ended up at Clemson, I think, was definitely where I was supposed to be. Clemson Honors was probably like my third choice once I toured it. It was the last school I actually like went on an official tour of. I don't know why I waited so long to do that, but once I toured it, I saw like how friendly everyone at Clemson is. Like, I went to campus probably 3 or 4 times before I decided on a school. And every single time I went, like, I never encountered anyone who was mean to me or like wasn't happy to talk about Clemson. And I think that spoke volumes to me when I was actually making my decision, because I think the Clemson community is really good about helping you and like lifting each other up instead of being really competitive. And so like I more and more saw the value in that. And so, you know, I decided to come to Clemson, and I'm really glad I did. Like, I don't think I could have ended up in a better place for me. So, yeah.
Yeah, well, that's wonderful. You all are so friendly, and I wanted to mention to everybody who's watching that you have provided your social media. I think most of you have given us your Instagram, and we're gonna include that as part of this so people can reach out to you. And I want to be clear: if students have questions about Clemson, are you comfortable with them reaching out to you? You know, are you?
Yeah.
You just nod your head. Are you sure? What if they're like, oh, it's weird. They don't know me, and I'm kind of shy. They're gonna think I'm weird. Like, what's
Not
your?
at all.
Definitely send a message. Even if you have a question about like other schools or like just making your decision, I think any of us would be happy to help with that.
You're not going to reject people. You're not going to judge people. You're not going to, right. Duncan's even making like, no, it's like, it's so out of character to even say that. But I think that a lot of students really struggle with that, asking questions when they're in high school. Did any of you struggle a little bit with that when it came to reaching out to current students, or felt like maybe it was weird? Ashley, you dealt with that, and Gracie as well. And it's nice that you're on the other side of this. Okay. And then let's see. Ashley and Kelsie. Oh, one more thing. I want to just take a step back. Money, the money piece. Gracie, thank you for mentioning money, because
Yeah.
you know, it's so important and people forget that. And I think that how you shared it, being very comfortable and proud. I mean, it's like, you're so smart to make a choice knowing that you can be able to afford the grad school piece and make those choices. Are any of you, you know, broke on campus? Are you struggling? Is it hard to, you know, have money on campus? Are you broke? Better question. How many of you would say you're broke college students? None of you. Oh, this is good. You got some, so it's good. Do any of you work on campus?
I will next semester. I'm working in the writing center.
Ooh, that should be great. And then let's go over to Kelsie. Kelsie, you happen to be in front of a beautiful red barn. Tell me a little bit about the barn. Is that real, or is that a green screen?
No, it's definitely real. So this is like our family barn back here. It has like everything you would need pretty much. Yeah, it's my favorite place out here pretty much though.
And I should mention, you are a graduate of Berkeley High School. You live in, I believe is it Monk's Corner? Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Is that a smaller community or a big, large town?
I wouldn't say it's large, but I definitely would say it's not small anymore. It's grown a lot over the past 5-10 years, I would say. Our high school went from when I started high school, we were just turning to a 4A, and like by the time I left, we were a 5A school. So
For people who don't understand 4A or 5A or what the number and the A's stand for, can you fill them in?
5A, I believe, is over 2,000 students. Right, Ash?
I think so.
It's like
Somewhere.
how they put you in a league for South Carolina high school sports based on like the population at your school.
Mm-hmm.
So they wouldn't take somebody that only had 100 students and let their sport teams play someone who has over 1,000 students, because the teams just wouldn't line up. it wouldn't be fair.
Gotcha. That makes sense. And I understand that you're involved with Block and Bridal. You're
Yeah.
part of the Clemson Wesley social team, part of also CAFS. Is that right?
It's CAFL.
CAFS. What is it?
Yeah, it's CAFL, so it stands for the College of Agriculture, Forestry, and Life Sciences.
Okay. And you're an ambassador, a CAFLs. Is it CAFLs?
CAFLs.
CAFLs. Okay.
CAFL.
I'm saying it. For some reason it's hard to say. And you're an ambassador, and then you also are a CUSG senator. So that would be the Clemson Student Government.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So did you run for that position?
Yes, sir. So we actually did that like 2 weeks before we found out about this whole pandemic. We got the email like on the Thursday, and then we left that Friday. So it's been very quickly put together, but we have even like every Monday we do Zoom Senate, and it's live streamed, and we still are passing resolutions. We passed 17 legislatures through last Wednesday, actually.
Wow. What was the most controversial or the most exciting?
I would say the most controversial would be our budget at the moment. So student government kind of goes through and decides what we do with a lot of money, and not everybody agrees where certain amounts should go to certain places and the benefit of it. So we've had many lengthy discussions on, why does this club get 10 grand? Like why should they get 10 grand and this club only get 5?
No, allocating that money can be very tricky. Given the fact that Clemson, I would imagine, had to reimburse some fees, did that impact your budget as a student government?
Our budget comes from outside donors, and so we were good. Most of it is secured no matter what. We did have conversations about, though, like what it looks for as like a student to get like the money back and like what the repercussions of it was.
Yeah, because that's a really big thing, a big challenge. And then you're part of FCA. What's FCA?
That's the Fellowship of Christian Athletes, and I think the beautiful thing about that, it's a really big space. All of us go to it actually. Every Thursday night it starts at 9:19, and we would go as a group, like our whole like hallway basically, and go, and we have like a section we would sit in, and we would take up a whole row, and we would know like if Duncan's not there yet, like he's coming, like save him a seat. And so I definitely loved it.
So it's not that you are all athletes; it's that you watch athletics together.
Yeah, sure.
Do I have that right?
SCA it's a club we had in high school as well, and so there's like a high school level, and then there's like the college level, and so it was just like the wider experience.
Great. And then you are also part of the Chocolate Milk Club. Is that?
Yeah.
Tell me about the Chocolate Milk Club.
Okay. So it was really funny. Like it was one of like the Tiger Prow. We happened to see it, and we were like, "What is Chocolate Milk Club?" And I know Ashley went with us. Gracie, did you go with us?
No.
I don't even like chocolate milk, and I joined.
I actually didn't even like chocolate milk. And we got there, had no idea what was going to happen. We were in this room, and they were like, all right, you have to take a test. And so they started handing out these pieces of paper with like random like milk questions and how many cows makes Dabo Sweeney. Like it was so funny. And then at the end of it, they were like, all right, you're certified. And then they brought out chocolate milk, and we just drink chocolate milk.
Wow.
So we have certificates saying we passed the test.
That's amazing. And have you made any chocolate milk friends?
Not really. Like a lot of the people that went, we just kind of like happened to bump by again, but not totally because of Chocolate Milk Club.
Right. I love that you included that. Thank you for including that. And the reason that I like to include this, and if all panelists, if there's things that you're involved with, let us know, because we're going to include this so that people watching can look at that list and be like, oh, I want to do that, or, that looks interesting. And if there's something that you want to do as a listener and you don't see, you can certainly ask any of the panelists. I imagine you probably know a lot of people who do a lot of these things.
Student government was definitely a good one.
Say that again?
Student government, that was probably like one of my favorites, just because in high school we did student government, but it's very different in college. Like you actually have committees and you actually send like legislature through, you have to write it, it has to be voted on. Like there's a president, the president's cabinet, there's all three branches. Like it's very thorough.
It sounds really cool. Is anyone else in the panel involved with student government? No, so and it's interesting because Kelsie, you kind of branched away from Ashley and decided you're going to do your own thing, which is probably why you're still friends and roommates, because you were able to do that. So tell me about your most difficult experience. And let's see, I think I'm going to talk to Ashley. So Ashley, and just so everybody can know a little bit about you, you're also from Moncks Corner. Am I saying that right? Moncks Corner or Moncks Corner?
Moncks Corner.
Moncks Corner, I had it right. You also went to Berkeley High School because that's how you know the amazing Kelsie. I put amazing in front just to spice things up, but you're all amazing. And spirituality is important to you, being part of the Methodist ministry. And you also are involved with some elementary school activities, and you love STEM. What's been your most joyful experience outside the classroom at Clemson?
My most joyful experience was probably going on retreats with my church, when we would just stay up like all night and play games and hang out and spend time together and like making friends outside of my classes and stuff. That's what I enjoyed the most.
Yeah, that's great. And Clemson is a school where, people do play a lot of games and they'll play cards, but there also is a pretty big tailgate culture, right?
Yes.
Okay. And people tend to, to party a little bit. Is that something that you have experienced? Is it something that you felt pressured to experience? Is it something that you were concerned about experiencing?
Going into Clemson, I was really worried about it, but like being there, it's not that bad. Like if you want to party, it's okay to party, but if you don't want to, there are people who don't, and you can be accepted on either side. Personally, I'm not really a fan of like frat parties and stuff, but I will go hang out with my friends and do like a smaller party in a smaller setting.
Yeah. And the Greek community is a really big part. Duncan, how important is Greek life when it comes to Clemson?
It's definitely there's definitely a huge Greek culture. But kind of as Ashley said, like even if you're not involved in the Greek life, you'll still be able to find kind of your pockets of people. But it's definitely, kind of as you said, Clemson loves to work hard, but they do love to play hard too. And so fraternities and sororities are definitely very alive and active on Clemson's campus.
So could you be not involved with fraternity and sorority life and still participate, go to parties, be friends with people? Are they part of your group, your circle as well?
Oh, absolutely. Just like of the four of us and like of our other friends in our hall, I think I'm the only one that's involved in Greek life. But it still doesn't stop me. Yes.
Oh, yes. So tell me a little bit about that. You're a part of, you could share with everyone.
Yeah. So I'm in a fraternity called Beta Upsilon Chi, which is a social fraternity, but it's also a Christian social fraternity. So kind of as the other three have talked about, faith is a big, important aspect of my life, but I also definitely see the merit in being in a social fraternity. Just like the aspect of like bonding with people and creating a similar interests. And so I thought this was a really great way to kind of combine the two. And so, the fraternity is definitely going to have like parties and throw a lot of social events. But there is also that Christian aspect that I was really seeking. And so that's been a really great organization for me to be a part of.
Yeah, I didn't realize that it's a Christian organization. How does that align with the, the party side, I guess the questionable virtuous side, if those two can, enmesh?
Yeah, so it's definitely different than I would say other social fraternities in that we're not, we are at our functions, we do only have dry functions, but we still have parties they just are dry parties.
But
But
for dry parties, there's no alcohol, in case people
no
don't know.
alcohol, no alcohol.
Right.
Yeah,
And so that's true. You're not just saying that.
that's very true.
I mean, I don't mean to,
Yeah,
push back, but I think, and the reason I do it isn't, again, it's not because I want to be annoying. It's because for people who don't understand, I think that fraternity and sorority life, there are so many different aspects to it. And the fact that you can be someone who has a strong faith and be part of a social organization, I think a lot of people don't understand that. So, thanks for clearing that up. Did any of you ladies, did you go through any rush, the sorority rush process? No. Was it something that you would explore doing next year, or is that not something you're interested in?
I thought about it. A big reason I didn't do it first semester or first year actually, just because it was a big time commitment, and I knew I wanted to explore other things without being like not tied down to a sorority, but there's a lot of like rules and things you have to do, and I just wanted to make sure that I could experience everything I wanted to. But after like seeing them, I don't really think I would join one next year, but it was a like thought in my mind that like I could do it down the road and not now.
Yeah, well, you do enough. I mean, you're doing a lot. So I don't know if you'd even have time. And then Gracie, just so everybody can have a little bit of background info on you. You're from Columbia, South Carolina. You graduated from Richland Northeast High School, economics and economics major. You said likely public policy, natural resources, economics. So we can talk about that. When it comes to your involvement, National Scholars Program, Clemson Honors Program, a violinist, right? A violinist? Did I say that properly?
Yes.
Right. So very, very, and you are in the Clemson Symphony Orchestra. So music is a big part of your life. Did that influence your decision-making process when it came to choosing a school?
I mean, I think it was definitely important to me to make sure that whatever school I went to, like I would have musical opportunities, because I've played violin since I was 5, and so it would be just like so weird for me not to at this point. It's really important to me, and so before I like completely decided on Clemson and like paid my deposit and everything, I like went and met with the orchestra director, and he kind of like showed me around, and so. Clemson doesn't necessarily have the most developed performing arts department, but I think because of that, it's much easier for you to join if you're not like a performing arts major. The orchestra is comprised of engineering majors and people from all across the college. It's not just like music majors, which I think in a way makes it even more fun because you're able to have some of those opportunities and like play with other people who it's clearly important enough to them to continue playing in college, but it might not be their career path. And so I think I kind of wanted to go to a school that might have had a bigger performing arts department, but the way that it's turned out, I think it's been like a really friendly atmosphere, and I've learned a lot. I also took like private lessons and joined a quartet, and those are things that would have been harder for me to do if I'd gone to a more competitive music program school. So I think it's worked out really well in that regard.
You can still do it. And did you have to try out to be part of the symphony?
Sorry, I'm trying to see if I can get my lighting any better.
So don't worry about it. It's fine as long as you can see.
The way that Clemson's orchestra works is that you can just register for it as a class, and then you have to do an audition for like your chair placement. So in orchestras, they'll usually do like your chair by skill level. So you'd play a piece that you've been working on outside of orchestra, and then an excerpt from a piece we'd be playing that semester. And then the orchestra director would just put everyone kind of where they were supposed to sit. So that's like a required, I guess, part to be an orchestra, but you didn't have to audition to be in the orchestra itself.
You get in if you can play, and carry your instrument, your tune, you get in, which is really cool. I mean, it sounds really impressive. I don't know about all of the specifics with Clemson and their performing arts, but it sounds pretty awesome that you're part of the symphony orchestra, which would be Should be exciting. And then I know you also are involved with the Dixon Global Policy Scholars Program, a writing fellow, honors ambassador, NSP retreat team, and her campus online magazine. You do a lot of interesting things. And again, I like to mention this so people can get a handle of who you are, and if they have any questions, they can reach out to any of you. So the hardest part of your year, I know that being a first-year student is a big transition, and I would imagine there was a time where you all struggled, where it was hard. If you struggled in the classroom, that would be awesome. I'd love to hear about how you failed and picked yourself up. If you struggled when it comes to just being away, dealing with life, where were your struggles, and what was the hardest part of your year? Kelsie, we'll start with you.
In high school, I came from all A's, like, doing the most and being able to keep up with schoolwork. And I found, like, once I got to college, like, yes, it is, like, you can have all A's, but it's not something that is attainable as easily as it were in high school, I would say. I found getting an A in high school was, I don't want to sound like me, but, like, it was easier. And then I hit having hardcore sciences. I had 4 labs in one semester. I took bio and chemistry, and I had animal labs where I was going off campus. And having all of those at one time, that really did kind of hit. And so I think probably the hardest was balancing having college biology, chemistry, and animals at the same time, and because you're just learning so much, and they overlap at some points, and then they're totally opposite at some points, especially when you have tests in the same day. Going from a bio test at 8 o'clock in the morning to a chemistry test at 7 o'clock at night, it was very not fun at certain times.
Yeah, that seems like a lot. Was that something that you wanted to do, or did your advisor advise against this?
So for my major, I'm an animal science major, and you don't have to, but it's very highly recommended to do bio 1 and 2 your first year, and chem 1 and 2. So you did bio 1, chem 1 first semester, bio 2, chem 2 second semester. And
Right.
This is just because when you're taking, like, I'm doing pre-vet, but I'm doing it for pre-med. So I'm actually wanting to go to medical school. But in order to take your MCAT, you have to have Orgo your second year, your sophomore year.
Ooh.
And in order to take Orgo, you have to have Chem 1 and 2 done your first year.
Okay, so you have to do this. So, and is there anybody else who's on a similar course or has a similar path where you take that? So Ashley, you are as well. So when you are in these classes, like, did you get a C, a D, or an F on a quiz or on a test, Kelsie?
I got a D on one of my biology tests, and I remember coming back from it because I studied so hard for it. And I actually, in the honors center, they have these big, like, study rooms. There's 4 of them, and you can write on the walls. And so I wrote out everything down the walls. It was very crazy. They thought I was going insane, and I was like, no, I'm going to do great on this test. And I remember getting a D and, like, coming back and just, like, sitting in my room and crying because I was like, what is this? Like, I don't get Ds. Like, it was a big shock to me. I did end up going to talk to my professor, and she was like, hey, like, you seem to, like, overdo it. She said, I'm going to tell you how to study, and if you study like this, you're going to do so much better. And so we talked, and she did tell me, like, hey, if you read the book before my lecture and understand what I'm talking about at lecture before I get there, like, you'll have a much better understanding when I start jotting out these words. And my bio teacher does do notes that go with the class as well as my chemistry teacher.
Oh, that's great. So you got your D, you were devastated, you cried, and instead of keeping it a secret, you talked to your teacher, who basically told you, you're doing too much. Here's how you do it. It's a great lesson. I think a lot of students, they get that D or F and they think they're not good enough and they get embarrassed. So congratulations. Like, that's amazing that you got through that. So let's move on to Ashley. Tell me about your most uncomfortable experience your first year and how you got through it.
My hardest experience was probably trying to find the balance between school and relationships with friends, because I would like spend all day hanging out with my friends, and then I realized I would be up till 2 or 3 in the morning doing my homework, and then I started sleeping less. I was getting like 4 hours of sleep a night, and I was falling asleep in class, and so trying to find that balance was really hard.
How did you find it?
I had to tell myself that I wasn't going to miss out if I had to go to my room and study and I wasn't with my friends in the lounge. It just like
That
it took
lounge.
mental control.
Right. So you had to be disciplined and put yourself in a space where
Yeah.
you can get your stuff done. And then did your grades suffer during this time?
Not really. I just noticed that I had to work a lot harder to get the grades I wanted, and that it was very like I felt stressed all the time. But my grades stayed up pretty much because I caught myself luckily before I fell.
Yeah. Well, that's wonderful that you could do that. Gracie, what's been your most uncomfortable experience this first year?
Yeah, so I'd say that I have like one that was more of a social one and then like one that was kind of an academic one. I'd say like first semester, I had like made some friends, but it was before I was like super good friends with like Ashley, Kelsie, and Duncan. And so I feel like every time it was like a weekend or something, I'd be like, oh, I don't really know who I'm gonna hang out with. And that was hard for like a few weeks before I got like really cemented in my friendships. So I would say that was something that was uncomfortable for me because like I'm used to spending time alone like as an introvert, but at a certain point you're like, oh, like if I wanted to do something, who would I do it with? But you know, like eventually I made really good friends, and so that's not really something I had to be super worried about anymore.
How long did
But
it take
second
for you?
semester, yeah.
How long did it take? Like how many weeks, or was it the first few months where you had this weekend anxiety that, and maybe if it's not anxiety, then, forgive me for using the word. I get what you're talking about because I used to have that too. I didn't know people, and it was like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do this weekend? Are they going to invite me? And can I invite myself? And, it's like so scary.
Mm-hmm.
So how long did it take?
I mean, I would say like the first few weeks weren't too bad because everyone was still trying to meet people, so it wasn't like super awkward. But I would say maybe like mid-September through October was when I was like having the hardest time.
It's even
Just
through
because like
October. Like that's, yeah,
yeah.
that's a
Um,
good chunk of time.
yeah. But then I think second semester I kind of had a similar issue to what Ashley was talking about, like trying to find balance between hanging out like with people or trying to do work with people versus actually forcing myself to go to my room and work alone where I could get stuff done. Because I've taken Calc 2 this semester, which is like an infamous horrible class at Clemson. Like Ashley took it first semester. She can attest to this. It's awful. And so like I would be doing calculus homework like 24/7 and just trying to get some sleep. And that was a little bit difficult too. Like on the first exam for that class, I did not do as well as I wanted after I studied for it and like had worked so hard for like, the first month and a half of the course. And that was very difficult. But then like the second exam I got an A on because I like studied even harder, and I just told myself, I'm not gonna let myself get down because of one bad grade. Like I'm just gonna work even harder for it. And that
How
worked.
bad was it? How bad was that grade?
What did I get? I think it was low 80s, which isn't horrible. Like I definitely could have done worse on it, and there are people in the class who do, but I think like by the very high standard I hold myself to,
Right.
I felt very bad about it. So
Right. It might as well be an F. I mean, if you studied really hard, you're not used to getting it. That imposter syndrome, that fear that you're around other people who are better than you, I think is something everybody feels. And
yeah.
that sounds like just you're nodding your head. And when it hits, instead of giving up, it's really getting that help. Duncan, tell me about your most uncomfortable experience and give us something juicy, man. I know you're a sensitive guy. I can tell there's something that happened. I'm feeling it.
Yeah. So I kind of same as Gracie. I have some examples socially and academically. I would say socially, just right at the beginning of the year. The high school I came from, there were two other people who were also at Clemson, and they weren't like, some of my best friends in high school. So I was basically starting with zero friends. And it was just really hard for me because I, kind of like Gracie, am pretty naturally introverted. And so it was really difficult for me to try to put myself out there to really go try to make those friends. And so I just, I remember several times in those first couple of weeks, like finishing class at noon and then just like, I'm going to get a to-go box and just sit in my room for 3 hours because I don't have anything to do. Like, I don't know who I'm going to be spending the rest of the day with. And so that was just a really hard adjustment just because I came from a really small high school where I knew pretty much everyone. And so it was really comfortable for me there socially.
Can
and
you
then
walk
not
us
having
through
that here.
Can you walk us through the weeks? If there's somebody who's watching this, just knowing like the first 3 weeks, the first 4 weeks, 5, like the first 2 months, it sounds very lonely. You finishing class, taking your to-go box and sitting in your room, a complete contrast to the beginning of our conversation where all of you were talking about hanging out in the lounge, having the time of your life, because hopefully people will watch this all the way through. But like, just take us through that progression so other people can know what's normal, at least for you.
Yeah. So those first couple weeks are a lot about like, kind of the university will put all these things out here, like, here are all the things you can do. And it's kind of up to you to say like, okay, here are the places I really want to get involved. And like, you can kind of cast a wide net. And then as you get along, you kind of connect with people through those a little bit more, and really kind of refine those organizations or whatever that you're a part of, until you kind of find your niche like on the campus. But those first few weeks, it's really,
I want to know you. Like, you got there and you were alone for 2 weeks, and then in the third week you found Wesley, or just tell me you.
Yeah. So I mean, for me, I didn't really know where to start, and so I started going to a different campus ministry called RUF, which is Reformed University Fellowship. And so just kind of feeling that out, didn't really know anyone involved in that, but that just kind of lined up with the denomination of my church from back home. And so I kind of started going to that and meeting some people through that. And then probably the third or fourth week of school was rush week. And so that's kind of when I decided to rush fraternity, just, as a way to kind of put myself out there. And then that definitely was kind of a big thing, like for me, kind of clicking socially, like, okay, here's like a group of people who are kind of here to be my friend, here like as a really intentional way for me to kind of connect with people. And so that was kind of when it started to turn. And then kind of at the same time, like seeing the three of them around the hall a lot and like realizing that we were all kind of studying together. It kind of kept building, until finally it was probably till late September, October before I really felt comfortable socially.
That's
where
hard.
I was.
Yeah. So it takes a little while to get there. And I think that's the hardest part. Kelsie, is there an animal near you? I see some ears that keep popping up, and I just want to see that. Is that?
I made her leave.
No, that's okay. It's fun to see animals, especially when Duncan's like talking about his most excruciating time of learning.
I was like, oh my gosh, this is a serious conversation. Get off the camera.
This is the most dramatic part of our conversation, and you've got some animal. You're like pushing the animal down, like, get away. Right, that was perfect.
Animals when we're not talking about Duncan's devastating moments.
No, it was helpful. I appreciate that. But it's helpful to know, and you got through it, Duncan, and other people get through it. The idea that you're sitting there eating alone, I always feel sad, and when students just don't go. Like, you wouldn't just go in the dining hall and eat alone, or pretend you're meeting someone, or was that too hard?
It was. I mean, I don't know. I felt like it was really hard for me to just kind of put myself out there, because I mean, I know some people who are like, yeah, like if I don't have anyone to eat lunch with, I'll just go find someone else who's sitting alone and just go talk to them. And that just is really not not my personality at all.
All of you shaking your head. You're like, yeah.
And so it was really hard for me. Like, I just figured, like, if no one can, then no one can like judge me for anything like that. And so I would just isolate myself.
Yeah, isolating can be really hard, and I'm glad that you got through that. But thank you for sharing that. I want to start wrapping things up, because you've been so generous with your time, and I'm so grateful for all of you to be here. the new student days are not happening. Those programs where everybody gets to go to campus. And I know from our conversation that seemed like a really pivotal time for you. So if you can address how students who are deciding to go to one school or another who can't come to Clemson, what can they do to help themselves to be able to capture the feelings? I know, Gracie, you met with the symphony director. I think that's what you were saying, and you got to walk around campus, and I'm sure, Kelsie and Ashley, you had those experiences as well. So let's speak directly to the high school seniors or even the juniors. Tell them what they can do to somehow capture the essence, that feeling that is Clemson.
For Clemson specifically, watch the fourth quarter video if you haven't seen it before. It's a video that they play during every home football game, like on all the big screens in the stadium right before the fourth quarter starts. And like the feeling in the stadium when they play that video is just insane. And like, it's one of my favorite things. It's just so cool to watch. And like, even just watching it in your house, it's like a little bit emotional just because the video is so well made. Like it really gets the Clemson like school spirit going. So I mean,
I used to watch before exams.
Yes.
Definitely.
We would sit there like right before our exam and be like, we're watching this because this is the only way we're getting through this one.
Yes, when you're studying and stressed, you just put on the fourth quarter video and then everything is right in the world.
And you're like, okay, it's fine now.
Mm-hmm.
And so that fourth quarter video, it's not hype, it's real.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it sounds like, that's the thing. Sometimes people watch that stuff and they're like, oh, it's too good to be true.
No, that's like the actual feeling.
No.
Yeah, that's wonderful advice. When it comes to connecting with people like you, with the organizations, just trying to get a sense of, am I going to find my sense of belonging? How can students who are seniors and juniors connect, whether it's through social media feeds, Instagram, whatever, like just what are some other practical things that they can do?
I know there's a lot of Facebook pages, and then in those pages, sometimes people will create Snapchat group chats or GroupMe group chats, and then that's a really good way to get to know people.
A lot of our class got added to the class of 2024 Facebook group too. So like you might be able to lurk on someone's Facebook and direct message them. Like I'm in the class of 2024 one. I don't know why, but I like reading their posts when I get bored. So you can reach out to people that way.
If you type in like on Instagram especially, like if you just type in Clemson, most clubs or organizations have an Instagram as well, and they're all like they all have Clemson in the name, so it'll be like Clemson Wesley is just Clemson Wesley. So if you type in on Instagram like Clemson, you can scroll through and kind of get an idea of like what these clubs are about through their pictures. And I know that's like not the same thing as seeing them as like in person, but you can see like what their values are towards. And I think that's important.
What about reaching out to the people who post the pictures through Instagram and saying, hey, I'm class of 2024. I just had a question. Would that be weird? Would people be
No,
upset?
that's totally good.
No.
The people on those pages would love that.
Yes.
Are you on any of those pages, you think?
Wesley.
Are any of you?
Yeah,
You're
Wesley.
on the Wesley one? Yeah.
If
So
anyone
that's cool.
knew the Clemson Wesley page, they would talk to you for sure.
Yes.
Yeah, so you're all over it. So really using social media for that. And then when it comes to summer programs, when it comes to pre-orientation, were there any programs that you participated in? Or that they have? Some schools will have like getaways or retreats or 3 or 4 day somethings. Is that not something?
I went on a retreat with the National Scholars Program. So I met like other people who were in that program with me. So I wouldn't say that was necessarily like helpful in making my decision, but it was helpful like when I got to Clemson, like meeting some people. So I wasn't, just surrounded by strangers all the time.
Nice. When it comes to the honors program, and then I'm going to officially wrap this up. I know we've gone a little bit long. Is it hard to get into the honors program? How do you get into the honors program? Do you have to be invited? Do you apply?
So I know like when you're first applying, it's a separate application. So like you submit your Clemson University application and then you can apply separately for the honors college. I think it's just like an essay or two more. But then it's I think it's a little bit easier to get into the honors college once you're already in Clemson. Because once you're in Clemson, I think as long as you have a 3.4 GPA, you can apply to like enter later, which I definitely would recommend doing. I think there are a lot of perks for being in the honors college. But yeah, so I think applying before you enter, you apply separately, like through a separate application. But then once you get in, there are ways to apply after your first semester.
Awesome. And you all like the honors program. If you were to talk to, this is my last question. So this is it. This is our final farewell words to those who are watching. If you could talk to an 8th grader or a freshman in high school, okay, who's starting off on this journey, on this college journey, this doesn't even need to be specific to Clemson, but thinking of who you were 4 years ago and where you've come and how important and how much energy you put into the college piece of your high school career, what advice could you offer to students to help them to relieve some stress and anxiety and just really make the best of where they are and their current experience? So I'll start with who seems most confident, who can offer those words to the freshmen. I think, Ashley, I'm feeling you really feel ready.
Yeah, I actually have a freshman sister, and so I'm used to this conversation. I would just tell them that no matter where you end up going to college, that you are going to love it and enjoy every moment, that it is a big decision, but it's going to work out and you will love it.
Or not. If you don't love it, you're in trouble. I'm going to make sure you love it, right? You will love it. You will.
There's something else to note that, like, say like you do end up going and you don't like it, it's not the end of the world. It's not like you're stuck there forever. If you truly think like you haven't found your place and that like it's been a year and you're like, maybe I should switch to a different college, I don't think that's necessarily the worst thing in the world either.
No,
not
definitely
about
not.
But I do have friends at other universities that are like, I don't think this is the place for me.
Yeah, I think that, and I was being silly, Ashley, but the idea of you will love it, it doesn't mean you're going to necessarily love it right away.
Yes.
But if you give yourself permission to be present and to be self-directed, then you will find what you love.
I think living in the moment is the biggest thing you can do.
Yes.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Duncan, what's your advice?
I guess I would say, for an incoming high school student, high school is really just a great time to kind of put yourself out there and just a really good time to say yes to a lot of things. Because I feel like high school is a really good time for you to kind of figure out who you are and what you really want to do in life. And then from there, I think you kind of apply the same ideas to college, like the college search process, like kind of put yourself out there, consider a lot of different options, and then really try to open yourself up to find the best fit for you. I guess would be my advice. Just kind of put yourself out there.
Yeah. And then what would you say, Gracie? What's your advice?
Yeah. The biggest thing I would say is like, it's really good to have like big dreams and big goals for yourself, because that's going to encourage you to achieve and do some really cool things in high school. But, and this is something that I don't always take to heart necessarily. So I'm still working on it too. But, never get so wrapped up in like achievements or grades or activities that becomes your self-worth. Like look for those things that are actually important to you and that make you happy. Like prestige in a college, like where you go, that's not everything. That's not what defines you. And, even now I still probably sometimes, worry about that or worry about like, oh, am I going to go to a prestigious grad school? But like, it's really not that big a deal. Like you're going to get a great education no matter where you go. Like I think I'm getting just as good an education at Clemson as I would be at an Ivy League school. So I would say just don't get too worried about prestige or achievements and just enjoy yourself. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's really wonderful advice, just being present and really being in tune to what you want. And it sounds like you're all on this journey, and I'm just so grateful that you can be here. You're so generous. I know all of you are open and willing to answer questions. So I really encourage anybody watching to do that. I want to thank you all for being here. Thank you for watching. And I look forward to continuing more conversation on Before College TV Live. This has been Clemson University students. Thank you all for being here. I look forward to continuing the conversation. And I'm going to stop the live stream now, and I want to give you all a quick thank you. You are fantastic. Thank you for being here. I hope this was fun. I know we went a little long. I hope you don't hate me for that.
Okay.
But you got to hang out with each other a little bit, right?
Yes.
So, good thing. If you want a copy of my book, of the Naked Roommate book, I'm more than happy to send a book to you. Andy, you could just give Andy your address and I'll send you a copy. I just do it through Amazon as a thank you. And when I see you, I can sign it for you. And if you have friends at other campuses that you think would be really, would enjoy sharing and helping other students, let me know about that too. Are you cool with everything? Is there anything I need to clear up, or did I annoy anyone at all? Are you good? Okay. All right. Terrific. Well, we're gonna process this and then put it out there, and then you probably will have people who reach out to you. And just have the best day, and thanks for offering the gift of your time and your wisdom. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
All right, cool. Yeah, great. You should all do this again and play cards. All right. That'll be fun.
It's been a thought.
See
It has been discussed.
Yes.
Dude, yeah. Why not? I mean, you're having fun. It's like a cool
Yeah.
thing. You just do. All right. Cool. Have a great weekend. Thanks again.
You
All right,
too.
bye.
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 It's going to end us all with hands.
So do you want me to end you all? I feel like you want to say goodbye to each other before I end us all.
Yes.
Guess we should, since we couldn't in person.
Yeah.
I don't want to
Yeah.
try again.
Okay, no, we can literally do another Zoom call.
No, we're not saying goodbye. We're just saying I'll see you in a few months, maybe a
Someone
year.
told me yesterday that we might not be going back in the fall.
Okay, so
No,
tidbit.
no, we're
Hold on. We discussed
Do
it
not bring
in
that one
Cohen.
into existence.
Yes. Okay, so we originally planned to let people start going back May 1st, and then when they extended that deadline to May 15th, like the Clemson also extended their deadline. So that was like the South Carolina's like deadline was May 1st. And then we had people try to pass stuff to say like we were going to accept pass or fail in the fall. And then we got into a conversation about like why would we like pass resolutions about fall when we don't know about it yet. So as of right now, we have plans to be able to come back to campus after August 7th. To like it's affirmed that like we plan to start. Well, I know that's like forever, but like
That's so long.
no, like August 7th is our deadline for saying like we'll start teaching. Like instructors are allowed to teach like in person after August 7th. We're hoping by the end of May that we have everything set up, kind of like how we moved in, like we signed up for time slots is how we're going to move out. We'll just sign up for time slots, and hopefully like, I mean, you're not going to be able to move out within 30 minutes, but like it'll have some sort of structure for vehicles and cars.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, we're hoping towards the end of May to have that official. Yeah, student government is really funny because you find out like a lot of juicy stuff before a lot of other people. I hope that can't go on record, but like it is
Right,
kind
I
of
won't
funny.
record
Like,
it. Yeah, this thing's still recording, but I won't include any of that.
okay.
I will include the outtake of like everybody saying goodbye, because I think that's really fun when you guys are like, oh, I'm not going to see you for so long.
Yeah.
I think that's like a really fun part, but we'll keep the other stuff. I'll keep the other stuff off. Okay.
Yeah. Well,
Okay.
stop quarantining. I want to see all of y'all.
We can meet in Columbia. I'm in the
Yeah.
middle.
Yeah.
Yes.
Get the twins in too.
That's just so sad.
No, Emma told me she might be transferring to Penn State.
What?
Emma?
Yeah.
You cannot drop that over
wait,
a
we're
Zoom call.
online.
Sorry.
I thought she had said she was doing that just like if we're online for the
Yeah, if
semester,
we're
so she would
online,
pay
They
in-state
do a semester at Penn State.
Okay.
just so she could have the
We
in-state
thought you meant
tuition.
permanently. Don't.
What?
We thought you meant permanently. Don't.
Oh,
say-
no.
Yeah.
I hope not
Yeah.
permanently. But yeah. She won't be like
Did
a
you
Clemson
actually want to
student.
see the animals before we go?
Oh,
You
sure.
mentioned it. Okay.
Yeah.
Where are they?
I might include the animal part. The animal part's interesting.
We gotta go find them.
What animal was on the screen earlier?
That was
Nelly.
Dog. That he's over there. He's a little
Wait,
tiny dog.
Yours looked like a cow. Where is my dog? She was being annoying earlier.
So I had an animal
kitten.
class at Clemson, and it was a beef cow technique class. And so basically, like, I had to train a cow.
Gouda's awful.
Her name was Gouda. He is the worst beef cow I've ever met. She
very,
didn't like
very
listen.
ornery.
She loved to come.
No one liked Gouda.
Gouda meant well at
Are you
heart.
glad to have her not worried about though anymore?
I was going to buy Gouda and bring her to my house, and my dad was like, "No, Kelsie, she seems like a bad cow."
Why would you want Gouda?
Okay, so first stop, we have the peacocks.
Oh, nice.
All right,
That's
I
fun
want
to see.
Can you see them?
How big is your farm?
9 acres.
Fun.
I'm walking backwards. Hold on.
Isn't that so weird that you said like
Oh,
peacocks?
wow.
It's just normal. Wow.
That's one of them. My favorite one. Okay, can you still see him?
Mm-hmm. The white
Okay,
one.
so the favorite. Yeah, I like the white one.
Ooh, that's
I
neat.
didn't know they came in white. That's interesting.
Yeah, the one at the bottom, he's number 1. That's like our very first peacock, but he's half white, half Indian blue.
Mm.
Our like cage literally looks crazy right now because the tornado came through my backyard. So
Oh gosh.
there's like
It
trees
missed our house
everywhere.
by half a mile. Like Dr.
It
Evans
missed
Road
the
is
house by
torn up.
100 yards. Yeah.
Ash,
Like there's
this-
no roofs, no trees anywhere on Dr. Evans, and it missed our house by less than half a mile.
These trees. This is my favorite, even though most people don't like her.
she's nice to you.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Why do people not like her?
Well, she's very young, and she's very large.
She gets in
So-
trouble a lot.
Yeah, she gets in trouble a lot. So if you see like the back of her, like back comes to my head, and I'm like, I'm not tall, but I'm like 5'3".
Kelsey's not 5'3". I'm 5'3".
I am 5'3". I just went to the
You are
doctor.
not.
Bet.
And I'm 5'5".
Gracie, you can have 5'5".
Wait, I'm 5'6".
Well, Kelsey's 5'3".
But she happens to be very large, and it's kind of intimidating, I feel like, for a lot of people to not know her. Like,
Yeah.
she just follows me everywhere. She also likes to
Oh,
bite my mom, so I mean, I guess I wouldn't be liking her if she bit me either, but she never bites me.
Do you have to clean up? Like, are you dealing with like dirty jobs as well?
Like, for the farm or for like the tornado?
The
For the
farm.
farm.
It's not, I wouldn't say there's really that many dirty jobs. I mean, feeding up, we used to have like over 100 pigs. At one point, we don't do pigs anymore, but that was very not fun.
Then
And then little chicken.
Ashley, do you hang out there?
I've been there a couple times, yes. Mm-hmm.
We currently don't have any more bigger chickens. They're all gone. They're in,
They went
What did
to
they work?
eat chicken.
they went to the freezer.
I love that for them.
Freezer.
Oh my
That's a
gosh.
nice way to say it. They went to the freezer.
That's so cynical. Oh my gosh.
They're like, "Where's your cows?" I'm like, well,
So if you ever tell anyone they're going to the freezer, we know what that means.
Oh my god.
yeah.
It looks really beautiful out there.
How many animals do you have?
Right now we just got new chickens, and so we have like 15 of those. They're biddies still, and then we have 20 peacocks, I think, and then we have a bunch of bantams, which are just like. What'd you say?
Why do you have so many peacocks?
What are
What do you do with peacocks?
They're just really pretty, to be honest. My grandma really loved them, and then when she passed away, like my granddaddy kept them up, and so it's just I don't know, it's kind of like his thing.
Yeah, that's fun. It's neat to have that.
Mhm.
So it's like seeing, it's like your grandma being around or something special.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
beautiful. That's so nice. Thanks
Yeah.
for showing us around. For
Yeah, no
showing me
problem.
around. It's fun. You all haven't seen this before, right? Or
No,
Duncan
that's
and Gracie, you haven't seen
I
it.
have, but
that's they're
Oh
sick.
wow, is that a tiger?
Yeah.
we're
Ferocious.
getting a cat at my house.
I know. My mom was helping your mom find one.
Yeah, we're getting one of Charlotte West kittens.
Aren't you kind of like allergic?
Yeah, I'm allergic. It's staying outside.
Okay. That's what this one is. It's a barn cat.
I told Amy, you're allowed to get a cat as long as it never steps foot in the house.
Yeah.
So we're getting a kitten.
Hmm.
That'll be fun.
Hmm.
I really like the trees right here. Just thought you should see.
Hmm.
Thank you, Kelsie.
You're welcome.
What's the temperature today?
74 here.
Like 72.
Wow.
Hmm.
On the ground in Chicago.
Oh.
Snowed last night.
Ooh.
Right.
Yeah,
I know,
Emma
you're in a
is
whole different-
snowing in Pennsylvania right now.
It's so weird. It's so weird. Cool.
It is weird.
All right. It is really weird. All right, I'm going to sign off, but I'm so glad you guys got to hang out.
Yes.
And again, thanks for everything and have just a spectacular weekend. Stay well.
Yeah.
Bye, guys.
Me too.
Bye.
Thanks.